Hi everyone, and welcome to Book Booth. My name is Rachel, and welcome to another recent reads. I'm going to talk about some books I have read recently and what I thought about them. I've got several books on this list this time, mainly because I read a lot of books in April, so I'm just going to talk about a whole bunch of them really quick. I've got one of them that I own physically, and the rest of them I will hold up a picture for you so you can at least see the cover. If you can see my beautiful gray streak here, isn't it lovely? Thank you, my sweet daughter, for just graying my hair. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into the first book. So this one I had on my TBR for a very long time, and I was glad I finally got to it. And that is The Accidental Afterlife of Thomas Marsden by Emma Trevayne. And this is a middle grade following a boy who, for a living, he goes and raids graves to try to find belongings to be able to sell to make money. And one day he digs up a grave, and there's a boy in the grave who looks exactly like him, and it ends up being this whole like fae thing, and that's pretty much all I'm going to say about it. Unfortunately, I did not like this book. I really did not. I never felt connected to the characters. I felt like it was paced too slowly. There were several times where I would turn the page and it felt disjointed, where I thought I accidentally skipped a page, and I would turn back to make sure I didn't accidentally grab like 2 pages. That happened multiple times in this. I felt like just the writing felt really clunky, and I didn't really particularly love the storyline. None of it really grabbed me at all. The initial description of the book of him like finding a body that looks exactly like him, it sounded like it was going to be more paranormal, and it ended up being more on like the fantastical fae side, which stories that focus on fairies and fae just aren't really my thing, and I didn't really vibe with that much. So I ended up giving this 2 out of 5 stars. I will definitely be donating this one to my local independent bookstore because I just didn't particularly love it, and I'm hoping somebody else can find it and love it because it just wasn't my thing, y'all. Okay, next, we have a book that I initially said when I said I wanted to read it was a graphic novel. It's not. It was not a graphic novel. It was more kind of akin to a classic fairy tale style book. There were a lot of beautiful illustrations, but it was not a graphic novel. And that is The Sleeper and the Spindle by Neil Gaiman, illustrated by Chris Riddell. This was a fantastic retelling of Sleeping Beauty. You guys, I really, really loved this one. So it's a very short book, and like I said, it's written very much like an old fairy tale. The book is completely just sort of has that vibe, and it just had this really unique twist on the fairy tale of Sleeping Beauty, a kind of a dark twist. The artwork was really, really cool looking and kind of creepy, and in Neil Gaiman style, and I just really enjoyed this one a lot. I feel like there's not a whole lot I can say about it because I don't want to spoil anything, because the twists in this are really, really cool, and I really enjoyed just sort of the feel of this one. So if you love fairy tale retellings with a spooky twist to them, I highly recommend this book. It's a very, very quick read. I mean, it's super short, and I would not read it to your child. This is more YA, I would say, because it does get a little bit on the spooky side, and some of the illustrations are a little bit creepy. So, but I really enjoyed this one a lot. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. So highly recommend. I felt like it was a fun one and a quick one. All right, the next is one that I had wanted to read for such a long time because I love nice spooky books. I've been getting more into some more horror books, and this one just sounded really cool, and it was nothing but Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Khaw. Oh, yes, Khaw, that's right. And I loved this cover. It sucked me in. It's so freaking creepy. I mean, you got this face that's not a face. It's just like a really creepy mouth and like the claws, and it's really disturbing looking. So this story is about, it is about this group of friends that go to have a wedding in this really old manor, and this manor has a really creepy, dark story to it. There was a woman that was getting married at this manor way, way, way back in the day, hundreds of years ago, and her husband-to-be ended up dying on the way to get to the manor, and as you do, she decided that she wanted to be buried alive in the manor to wait for her husband's spirit to come, or her husband-to-be spirit come to marry her. I feel like that's just a very huge overreaction, but that's what she does. And so this manor is supposed to be crazy haunted. You guys, I was so excited to read this one, and it was terrible. It was so bad. Thankfully, it's a novella, and it was a really quick read, because otherwise I would have DNF'd it. It was terrible. First of all, okay, so we have this group of friends. The bride is the one that wanted to get married at this manor because her dream was to get married in a haunted house. Who has that dream? Okay, first of all, that's weird. Second, these are all supposed to be friends. They seem like they all hate each other. I mean, hate each other. I'm like, why are these people friends? They can't stand being around each other, and they're trying to act like they're all like best buddies, but you can tell they just absolutely despise each other. So that's frustrating. There was a lot of profanity. I'm talking so many F-bombs. And usually it doesn't bother me too much, but it was just, there were some sentences where literally the F word was used every other word. That is not an exaggeration. That happened several times. Again, the characters are terrible. Again, also there are some parts of this book that are just really gross. Like just gross stuff. Not like, I'm not talking just gross as in, oh, it's bloody. It's a horror book. I get that. But I'm talking just gross, disgusting things, like some sexual related gross things. Like it was not good, guys. It was not good. The characters are terrible. The plot was terrible. It was just not good. Okay? It was bad. So I ended up giving this 1.5 stars. I should have just given it 1, to be honest, because it was just not good, guys. And it makes me so sad because I was so excited about it. Just the premise sounded so cool. Okay, sorry, I'm looking at my list down here to make sure I don't forget which books I want to talk about and what my ratings were. Okay, so this next one, thankfully, we got a good one here, folks. And that is Sour Candy by Kealan Patrick Burke. This is another horror novella, and this one was chef's kiss perfection. I absolutely loved it. So in this story, we are following this man who ends up kind of being enslaved by this demonic child. And there's candy involved. And that's all I'm gonna say. If you like the idea of a spooky demonic child, it's just, you guys, this would make such a good like short horror movie. It was just, it was written so well to where I was able to see everything so visually in my brain. And that doesn't always happen in books, but this one, just the fact that how short it is and it's so cinematic, I thought it was so well written, and it was perfectly paced. There was never too much information or too little information. I just felt like it was absolutely perfectly done, and I loved it. And it was spooky, and the ending was great. I really enjoyed it. So if you're interested in kind of dipping your toe into some horror and want something that's very easy to visualize, I would go with this one. I really want to read more of this author's work. He's written some more horror novellas, and I want to read more of them if I can get a hold of them. I think they're a little bit hard to find, but I really enjoyed this one a lot, and I highly recommend. I feel like that's a good one to read like on kind of like a rainy night next to the fire, and you just want to read something spooky in one sitting. It's so good. It's so good, you guys. Okay, going on a completely different tangent here from horror. I read the next 2 Tea Dragon graphic novels. The second one is called the Tea Dragon Festival. If you haven't heard of this particular graphic novel series before, they're quite short, but they're beautifully illustrated, as you can see, very like light and spring and summery kind of vibe. We are following these people that have these pet tea dragons, and the tea dragons are these adorable little dragons, and they have these tea leaves and flowers that grow out of their heads, and then you can harvest them. Not harvest dragons, you harvest the little leaves. You don't eat the dragons. You harvest the little leaves, and you can make tea out of them, and there's like, you can relive memories through these tea leaves, and I don't know. And it's just a really precious type and style of graphic novel, and I really enjoyed it a lot. It was a lot of fun. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I can't really say much about this one specifically because I don't want to ruin anything since this is the second one, but it was just beautifully illustrated, some really nice storytelling, and I like the characters. Everything is very heartwarming and pretty and lovely. So I really enjoyed that one. I think I gave it 4 out of 5, yes? Yes, I did. Okay, speaking of that, I also read the third one, the Tea Dragon Tapestry. This one, I think this one was my favorite out of all 3 of them. First of all, look at that. That was such fall vibes, and I love it so much. But again, it was just lovely, beautiful, 4 stars as well. I do recommend it. I think the second and third are better than the first one, to be perfectly honest. There's not a whole lot of plot, I think, to the first one. It's just more introduction of just sort of the vibe and the tea dragons. And the second and third one have some more interesting plot points to them. But I really enjoy just looking at them. They're so pretty. I just enjoy slowly reading through them and just really looking at all the beautiful details. Again, 4 out of 5 stars. All right, I've got 2 more here to talk about. This next one is I think it's considered a classic, and it's a novella. It's extremely short, and I was very interested in reading it. And it's called The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. This, like I said, I believe is considered as a classic. It follows the story of a woman from I think the 1800s, I believe that's correct, late 1800s. And she is suffering from postpartum depression. And at this particular time in the medical history, depression wasn't really dealt with very well. Usually the prescribed thing to do for depression was for the person to be isolated and also to be kept from doing things. So she was pretty much kept from taking care of her child or really doing anything. They didn't even really want her reading or doing much of anything to occupy her mind. Apparently it was the thing to do to help heal her was for her to be basically just kept by herself, not doing anything, which is honestly the worst thing you could possibly do. So we are following this woman, and I think I remember it being in journal format, and she just basically slowly slips into madness because she's just slipping further into her postpartum depression. So it's really sad, but it also just opens, it was originally written to kind of open the eyes of people of the type of treatment that was done that just was not good, wasn't healthy, it didn't work, it was probably the opposite of exactly what you needed to do. So I didn't end up loving it as much as I hoped it would. I personally have struggled with especially anxiety, but also some depression as well. So I was worried it being a little bit difficult for me to read. I wouldn't say it was difficult for me to read necessarily, and I didn't end up feeling as bonded to the character as I thought I would. But I still feel like it was good. It was well written. It did what it was supposed to do, and I feel like it's a very important book. And I think there is a reason that it's a classic, and I think it should be. I just think it's very well done. I just didn't particularly enjoy it or feel as connected to it as I expected to. I ended up giving it 3 out of 5, so just sort of middle in the road. Not terrible, I didn't end up really enjoying it or feeling as impacted by it as I expected to, if that makes sense. Okay, I've got one more to talk about, and this one was a lot of fun. It is a Spindle. It's a Spindle Splintered by Alix Harrow. This is a fantasy novella, and I really enjoyed it a lot. As you can kind of tell from the name of it, it is, I guess you can say, kind of a Sleeping Beauty retelling. We are following this young girl who is going to be turning, I think, 21, and she has a certain medical condition to where so far no one has lived beyond 21 years old when they've had this condition, and her body is continually breaking down, and she knows that this is going to be her very last birthday, that there is no cure, and that she will die. And she has been absolutely obsessed her entire life with the fairy tale of Sleeping Beauty. Just the idea of Sleeping Beauty doesn't die, that she just falls asleep. And she just sort of dreams and wishes that she was Sleeping Beauty and that she wasn't going to just die on her 21st birthday, or, the birthday, I think 16th birthday is for Sleeping Beauty. And she ends up being transported into the story of Sleeping Beauty, and chaos ensues, pretty much. I really enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was fun. It was hard-hitting. It was funny. It was engaging. I enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the friendships in this story. I just enjoyed the character growth in this story. Our main character grows a lot. She grows from being kind of this, not necessarily woe is me, but she just sort of grows and realizes there's so much more she can do with her life than she realized. And it's just a really great book. And I love kind of that portal fantasy vibe. always enjoy that when you're just like taken from our world and thrown into a fantasy world. I just think it's a lot of fun. So this one was a good time. I really enjoyed it a lot. And thankfully, there are more. There's another book that came out in this series, and I think it's another one where you're thrown into another fairy tale. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be a good time, and I really enjoyed this one a lot. What did I give it? I gave it 4 out of 5. So it was a good time. I highly recommend, and it's a novella, so it's a nice quick read. But those are all the books I'm going to talk about today. Most of those I read within a week's time in April, and I did like a mini vlog for each one. So a lot of these I have talked about and kind of reviewed a little bit before. That's why I kind of wanted to speed through them and just talk about them if you didn't happen to see those and you wanted to know my thoughts on them. But that's several books, and I'll probably have another recent reads again pretty soon because I still have several more books to talk about that I have read. But let me know down below if you've read any of these and how your reading has been going lately. On this side of the video over here is my logo. If you click on that, you can subscribe to my channel and follow me on my book journey. On this side of the video over here is a suggestion for another video if you would like to watch another one right now. But thank you so much for watching. You rock, and don't forget to keep reading.